Hi, I'm Rabbi Rashi Simon,
Ruthie Simon.
and we're here at Kesher, and we'd like to welcome everyone and to give you the opportunity to learn a little bit about us and about the Kesher Kehila, what it has accomplished, what its aspirations are, what is its uniqueness, and join us on a little exploration into the world of Kesher. I know that my accent has already betrayed my American origins. I was born and raised in a small town called West Lafayette, Indiana. It's a university town nestled among thousands and thousands of acres of cornfields. And that was the environment where I grew up in a small community, but my parents were always at the forefront of Jewish life within that environment. And my parents accomplished the improbable of raising 4 children in this small Midwestern town in the USA, all of whom are committed to an observant Jewish way of life. The 2 boys are both rabbis, the 2 girls are both married to rabbis. My father was not a rabbi. My father was a microbiologist. He taught at Purdue University for 47 years, but he and my mother, Lahavdil ben Chaim L'chaim, successfully transmitted their commitment to Judaism and their love of Judaism to their children. And no doubt that was very much a formative influence upon me. Nevertheless, I didn't stay in Lafayette, Indiana too long because of the paucity of Jewish educational opportunities there. So I went to high school in the East Coast, and then I went to yeshiva in Israel, also in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, also in New York, in Queens. And that set me on a path towards a Jewish communal service. And although I went to university as well, I studied psychology and then a master's degree in Jewish intellectual history, but my avocation and my attraction was always to Jewish communal service. And perhaps because of my particular background, I had and motivation for outreach, for kiruv, to bringing Torah to those who are on the outer orbit of Jewish life. And that was my aspiration, and I managed to find a wonderful bride who had similar goals and dreams, and so we set out on that career path together.
Hi, my name is Ruthie Simon. I'm born and bred in Southern California, though my mum, is British, Welsh-Scottish. My grandfather was actually a rabbi in Cardiff and in Glasgow. So I suppose I was brought up in quite an Anglified home in Southern California with the glitz of Los Angeles, but perhaps able to acclimate a little bit better to Anglo-Jewish life because of my upbringing. I was brought up in a home that gave me a pride in my Jewishness and a desire to share that with others. From a young age, I was involved in youth work with teenagers who came from a weaker background than I was raised in. And I come from a home where we had Shabbos guests, and our home was a conduit for reaching out to others. Raised in Los Angeles, I studied at UCLA, and then I went to Israel to work on my teacher's degree in Jewish studies. After that, I began my search for Rabbi Right, and that brought me to my husband, which was great, because I was looking for somebody that had a worldly balance.
We were living in Israel. I was finishing my rabbinic studies, and I was planning to look for a job in the United States, but before I had a chance to do so, a job in England came looking for me. And someone said to me, would you be interested in moving to London? I said, not really. They said, well, will you be willing to meet with someone who is interested in finding someone to run an outreach organization? We'd like to show him how we're trying to help. So I said, if you want me to help you show that you're trying to help, I don't mind. Well, that was the beginning of, I won't say the beginning of the end, it was the beginning of my career here in England. Ruthie and I came to England in 1989 for 2 years, and here we are 25 years later. So I did found Jewish Learning Exchange at the impetus of this particular philanthropist, and we lived in Little Venice in Maida Vale for 6 years, and having sort of set down roots in England at that time and begun to raise a family here and send our children to school, we subsequently moved to Golders Green, and we decided that at least for the indeterminate future, London would be our home. We started Kesher as an outreach organization at that time, about 15 years ago, but Kesher as it exists today only emerged several years later, because initially we were doing outreach. We had programming in the city of London, in Bevis Marks, the old Spanish-Portuguese synagogue, a very beautiful building near the financial district. We had programming in the West End. We had programming in other locations as well, but we didn't have a building of our own. And the genesis of Kesher as it exists today can be traced to my late lamented friend Benzi Dunner, who urged me very ardently to expand Kesher from outreach to a kehillah as well. And we undertook that ambitious project about 12 years ago when we acquired this building, and we renovated it, and within a couple of years we were ready to go public with the Kesher Kehillah, and so we have. And Kesher in that way has expanded its reach and its impact and has become a full-service outreach organization. It's become a vehicle for the personal and religious growth of many individuals who have been inspired or touched by the Kiruv movement, and are looking for a community, for a context within which they can take their Judaism forward and to integrate it with the rest of their lives. And people in the outreach field, myself included, are not always so committed to after-sales service, and the initial thrill and the initial sense of accomplishment when one has been a catalyst in the religious growth of another Jew wanes after a while, and when confronted with the realities of work or marriage or interaction with family members, and sometimes even just a person who several years later looks at himself and says, is this really what I want to be? What has become of me? Have I been transformed in a way and at a pace which is too fast, in which I don't even recognize myself? And that phenomenon is not unknown within the outreach realm, and Kesher is intended to serve as a home for those people at various levels of religious growth, some at a very, let's say, preliminary level, and others who have advanced well beyond that, where they can feel as if Kesher is a vehicle for their ongoing personal and spiritual and religious growth. So that's what we're all about.
We felt there are so many people who become inspired with their Judaism, but oftentimes husband and wives are on different levels, or people feel they're being pigeonholed to be a particular way in how they serve Hashem. Or sometimes people still need attention on the growing path.
We realize that there is a need for a community, there's a need for a context in which people can integrate Judaism into the rest of their lives.
Remember taking a walk with my husband years ago, trying to decide what we were going to call our organization. And when the name surfaced, Kesher, it clicked. Kesher is also sociable. It's a social magnet for people that want to connect with other Jews, meet Jews that are like-minded and want to develop their Jewish selves. So we found a place that we connect to, which is Kesher, and it's an opportunity for others to connect with their Jewish self, with others, and with Hashem. When we decided to start Kesher, we needed to determine what could Kesher offer Anglo Jewry that wasn't reinventing the wheel? We brought many projects to this country, including the Hebrew Reading Crash Course, which is now done throughout the United Kingdom. My husband actually initiated and brought the first trip to Poland to this country, lunch and learn programs.
So we've had some outstanding guest speakers. We had Rabbi Michal Twersky, we had Rebbetzin Fegi Twersky here. We've had Jonathan Rosenblum, the journalist. Of course, we have Rabbi Pinto, who comes to Kesher every year as well, where he sees many, many hundreds of people who seek his counsel and his advice. We also have done trips to very exotic destinations like Djerba, the Jewish island off the coast of Tunisia. We've done 2 Kesher safaris in Kruger National Park. We took a trip to Andalusia, to Gibraltar, and to Jewish sites in southern Spain. We recently had a Jewish heritage trip to Lithuania as well. So we've had also the Kesher Whiskey Trail, which we did in Scotland several years ago as well. So these are some of our trademark programs, which many others have sought to replicate as well, but we do it in our own way, which we feel has a special appeal as well. Here at Kesher itself, we've had A Bug's Life, which was a hands-on exposition of searching for tolaim, for insects that can infest your broccoli and cabbage and other things which are very healthy to eat, but the insects are halachically greatly problematic. And we had Yishmael Khaldi, the first Bedouin Muslim diplomat in the Israeli diplomatic corps, who was here 2 years ago on one of his speaking opportunities here in England. We've had Gina Turgel, who was a Holocaust survivor. We also had another woman, sadly no longer with us, who was a nearby neighbor and a great admirer. She was very fond of Kesher, and we managed to persuade her to speak publicly for the first time ever about her Holocaust experiences. In fact, for many years, she wouldn't speak at all about them, and only in the last years of her life, she began to talk a little bit more to her family about her experiences, and she did put them in writing as well, but she never spoke publicly until we won her confidence, and actually she was very motivated to have the opportunity to tell her personal account, which was a harrowing account of survival, and one that was ultimately life-affirming, and we miss her greatly. She was a nearby neighbor of ours here at Kesher.
We ran a very successful Haftarah reading program for men that were either rusty on reading a Haftarah or were never brave enough to get up in shul and recite a Haftarah. So Kesher is a place that a person doesn't have to be afraid to get their toes wet and then to take ownership of their Judaism. And I think that that's something very special. And we're always embarking on new ways that we can develop this. We also need to always be cognizant of the needs of singles, because the Jewish community today is full of singles who have not yet met their partners, and that's something that we'd like to involve people with. But we want people to know that no matter where somebody is, whether they're single, married, new to Jewish observance, just getting their feet wet, entrenched in it, but maybe with questions or maybe without questions, people that have something to share. Kesher, there's a place for you to connect with. Kesher memories, they happen all the time. Just last Shabbos, when we had, or it was actually 2 weeks ago, when we had the Shabbat UK seeing the faces of children and adults at Havdalah had such an impact on me. We've had Pidyon Habens, people having their first Aliyah, somebody reading their first Haftarah.
But for me, a Kesher memory which I treasure very much is the Hachnasa Sefer Torah in memory of my father. Just before the end of the year after his passing, we completed the commissioning of a Sefer Torah, and it was brought from Israel where it was written to London, and we had a wonderful celebratory procession from up the road here in Golders Green to Kesher, and the singing and the dancing, the reading from the Torah. It was a very moving, poignant moment for me, and my mother and other members of my family were able to participate in that as well. And for me, I think it would be a highlight, and especially something which my father would have been very, very proud of. So I feel that for me that's a very memorable Kesher memory, Kesher moment. The first Kesher wedding was very memorable for me. It was the wedding of Daniel and Rachel Viro. I was here at Kesher 6 years ago, and for me it represented a sort of coming of age of our community, where members of the Kehillah who experienced the process of personal and Jewish growth within the Kesher environment were united in marriage, and we're still very close with Daniel and Rachel. And for me, that was a formative moment. We have had other weddings here since then, and many Pidyon Ben and Bris on many occasions. Ufruf we've had as well, of course, Bar Mitzvah, Bat Mitzvah also.
Another Kesher moment is when you bring in ideas about the Parsha, and before you know it, there's dialogue going on. And I know last this past week, there was one of the young boys was giving his ideas and somebody else was sharing their ideas, and it became a conversation, and we all left that much richer because of it.
We have exciting development plans for Kesher. The space that we have occupied for the last 10 years is frequently too small for our needs, and we feel that the space can be more effectively utilized, and by expanding the actual parameters of the building, we'll be able to cater for more people and to accommodate more larger and more innovative programming as well.
My husband and I don't have the agenda, we're going to change people. We have the agenda, we're going to give people opportunities. We want people to be able to come to us or come to Kesher, really, and find an opportunity to express and develop their Jewish connection. Again, Kesher is a kehillah, Kesher is a community. It's made up of everybody that comes here, and they're all different types of people on all different levels. Kesher is a place for all of us to connect.